Welcome to the church of what's happening, baby. It's Wednesday, you don't say. So, welcome to the Church of the Irreverend Reverend, the Battenberg congregation. And I do hope that everyone is jumping into the pews as we speak. Let me just get everything ready. Because tonight we're gonna have a deep dive, baby. Deep dives are always good. Let me just find the right screen that I should be on. Is it that one? No. Is it that one? Yes. Lovely. So tonight we're doing we're doing live number 109, baby. And the sermon this evening is slightly different, but exactly the same, so to speak. You're talking in riddles, Adrian. Why? All will become clear once everyone gets their feet under the table. It is Wednesday evening, feeling a little colder today. Winter around the corner? No, don't be silly. It's just cold. Let me go to some of your comments, because I haven't been to the allotment to work off my energy today. Tonight we're going to talk about the Royals in a different way. We're going to talk about, America, because I think we can take some lessons from America. We're going to talk about 9/11, because today is the 23rd anniversary, so we will talk about it. I was on air for Real Radio in South Wales on the day. I didn't nearly make it on air because the bosses had their own opinions on certain things, which we'll talk about later. We're going to talk about Starmer the Harmer. Yeah, him. The most hated man in Britain, according to the parishioners of this particular kirk. We'll also talk about the economic migrants, because there are some questions that need to be asked that are not being asked by anybody. There is one pertinent question that I am going to ask this evening, and we're going to talk about Dave Grohl. Obviously, he's a northerner. Dave Grohl, you mucky tart. So you're and anything else we just managed to stumble across this evening, because I do every subject that we're talking about tonight. We may go off on tangents, we might not. That's the nature of the sermon. But whatever we talk about, it will have a very unique. Who's that? Paulie Galtieri. All right, Adrian, you're wronging. All right, Paulie, you're wronging. There's Ashton's in the body of the kirk, everyone. Oh, dear. Joking, Des. But firstly, Amalia says, I'm checking in early so I don't darn well forget. Is she in the body of the kirk tonight? And sorry, my glasses seem to steam up when I get anywhere near the hibiscus. And I'll only wear them when I'm doing the comments, and then they're whisked off, never to be worn again for the rest of the evening. So to speak. Stuart says, evening, Adrian. Almost my favourite time on a Wednesday. You're too kind, Stuart. A sermon from the legendary Reverend Allen, and to go with that, coffee and a slice of the lovely smelling Battenberg. Lovely, Stuart. Amalia says, I'm checking in early. I didn't know that there'd been a Trump v. Harris debate. Seen on socials that Harris obliterated him. Thoughts? Where can I watch the full debate? So, Amalia, have you been able to find the full debate? It was only about an hour or so. And bizarrely, I woke up like 3 minutes to 2 this morning. It's almost as if the hand of God was on my shoulder going, oi, you slacker, get up and do some work for once. Because obviously God would speak to me like that. Even though I am a fractal of the ineffable, experiencing itself as consciousness. Nikki Watson says, sorry, Amalia. Hopefully you found the full debate. I've kind of watched it. It's a little dry, if I may say so. There's something going on with Trump. There's definitely something. He doesn't have the swagger. Maybe it was the bullet that grazed his ear, or the fact that somebody tried to assassinate you. That's enough to cure anybody's constipation. But he wasn't his usual self. I am going to tell you stuff that I've noticed, and it's quite serious. So we'll talk about that if you want. I'm looking forward to your comments in the comment section. Nikki Watson says, "Oh, Adrian, hey, Reverend, I'm sorry. I won't be able to attend tonight. Got to pick my son up from the airport." I bet his arms are sore. Flying. Flat. Oh, well. We'll watch on catch up. Have a great night, all. Nikki, hope everything went well and you're catching this up. And you can interact if you want in the comments. And by the way, any of the any of the videos, any of the lives, you can comment afterwards. So if you're watching it, it kind of throws me when people go put a timestamp on and go 1 or 2 or vote. I have no idea what you're voting for. So make it easy for me. Just kind of leave me a little line going, I'm voting for, or I'm commenting on, and that would make all the difference to me when I'm attempting to read some of the bits and pieces. Andrew James says, I have some more films for tonight's viewing at the Kirk. 1, Confessions of Amalia in the Dolomites. Ooh. Terrible when you're playing cricket without a box and you take a ball in the Dolomites, let me tell you. And versus John Lawson Johnston, which is a campy space adventure and Midnight Express for Tocker 69. I'm sure Tocker 69 would love Midnight Express. Great film. All great films. Apart from, I'm not too sure about the Confessions films. Stuart, I've already done that. Thank you, Stuart. I've got to be very gentle as I do this. Andrew James says, I have heard that Double A will be arriving on horseback and topless. You don't want to see my man boobs, Double A, surely. Andrew, surely. Exposing his sailor tattoo while singing, "Eh, what a beautiful morning" from Oklahoma. Close. No tats. GB Patriot, evening, Adrian. Is it just me, or do you find the Catherine and William video too contrived and schmaltzy? GB Patriot, you're reading me mind. Let me just make a note for that. I have noticed something. Right, just making my notes because I will be coming and commenting on that. GB Patriot, if you have any comments, please leave them so I can sort of interact with you. Paula Sky, looking forward to our midweek sermon in the Kirk. Need some comfy hassocks for us in the pews, please. We've got some piles cushions that the local hospital gave to us to help with less well-endowed derrieres. But then again, there might be some people who bring their own piles cushions. We're allowed to. We're God's children. We're allowed to. Says the Reverend once before he got arrested. Viv Kenyon, evening to all loyal attendees. Our Reverend will no doubt be getting revved up. Love it. Viv and Darla. Yeah, I've got my baggy pants on tonight, Viv, so you won't notice. Ria Odell, saw the Catherine video, thought it was either AI or a Netflix ad. May not be everyone's favourite sort of update, but don't think it's worthy of all the negativity it seems to be attracting. I'm not going to be really negative, Ria, but it's... I think the parishioners and everyone in the body of the Kirk that's managed to squeeze into the pews this evening are of a particular frame of mind, a little sharp, shall we say. So we're ahead of most curves, but we will talk about that in just a little while. Thank you, Ria. Tocker 69, evening to all fellow utter Rollins. Battenberg slices are available at the entrance, and Tower Block Tracy is staggering her way down with alcohol. Up, down. All good to Tower Block Tracy if she hasn't drank it already. Yeah, it might be an empty bottle. If you hear the clinks. Evening Tocker 69. Kerry Hawkins, evening all of you wrong'uns. Evening Kerry. And Ria Odell says, I'm always too quick with my finger. Story of my life. Let me go back up. Or is it just, as I... Bloody hell, did I really go that far down? Before you say anything, stop making your own gags up. Let's get back to the Bovril, Andrew James, Ray Odell. Blimey, topless Rev on horseback. I'm sure there's a Battenberg Boudicca gag somewhere. Ooh, Boudica? Or is it Boudicca? It's Boudicca, wasn't it? The Queen of England. or before we got into Athelstan. Andrew James says, Talk 69, evening, you're wrong. Have you secured the shutters of your shop? Heard that you have done well on left-handed tambourines. Brilliant, Andrew. Talk 69 says, yes, thanks. Oasis ticket, all gone too. Oh, well, thank you, Neil. Is the Oasis still a story? Is it? I mean, they're trying to keep the old papers on the stories, but the newspapers have kind of left it alone now. Louise Hampson's in the body of the Kirk. Evening, Louise. Yeah, wrongin'. Bovril. Evening all. Hot sausage rolls now being served in the vestry along with Battenberg cake for afters. And what about the altar wine? The Bovril. Andrew James AA wants to see Baby Bird live next month. No, I bloody don't. Hang on, what's Baby Bird? Wants to see Baby Bird live next month. What? Hang on, is it one of those films? What is it, Baby Bird? I'm aware of it. It's not. Where have I seen that? Is it not the new Nicole Kidman thing, where she's she plays? Sorry, that was a fly. I'm not giving you a round of applause before you start. So you put me off my stride now. I'm off my stroke. What was it? Battenberg cake for afters. Baby Bird live next month. Nicole Kidman film. Yeah, she's playing a baker. Seemingly she's getting the baps out in one of the films. So that's what I was being told by the publicity. Tarblock Tracy is in the body of the Kirk. Says to Talk 69, do you have a problem with me? Every week you bash me. How about I visit you and bash your bishop? Oi, I'm not having the bishop go around with you two. It's bad enough when he keeps telling me off. Reverend Bishop Bash. Boom. Tarblock Tracy. Sweet and sticky pie now being served in the crypt. Oh, I say. I do hope it's not slightly hairy. Tarblock Tracy, first come, first serve. I'll be at the back of the queue then. Yeah, wrong. Tarblock, oh, blimey, she's on one tonight. Kerry Hawkins, it's a bit nippy this evening. Hopefully the Reverend will warm us all up this evening. Form a queue then. I'll do my best. Des Ashton, quite fancy a thick slice of BBG. Big Battenberg. Des. Can't work that one out. Battenberg cake. Have you put a G instead of a C? You'll have to translate for me. The Bovril and Tarblock Tracy flirting, as per usual. Andrew James. Look at the Rev. Is poor. He has to wear the same shirt twice. 3 times, Andrew. Please. I do have a maxim. If I haven't worn it for 8 hours, I can wear it as much as I can till I get me wear out of it for 8 hours. And by the way, before you start, I've got numerous white polo shirts. In fact, I've got a wardrobe full of them. You want to see the colours? I did think about wearing an orange one tonight, but I didn't think it was an orange moment. So I just thought, stuff it, I'll wear white. Virginal, before you start, I'm a reverend. I've taken a vow of chastity, so I can't get any. That's why I take Battenberg all the time, and and the altar wine. Got to take it where you can get it. Well, there was that married woman once. I'm joking. Before you start, Mad Matt UK, good evening, everyone. Mad Matt UK, welcome back into the body of the Kirk, young sir. Peter Sadler, evening, Adrian. It's so cold, the brass monkey needs a welder. Yeah, if you hear a couple of thuds, tell them to bring the welding gear. Mad Matt UK says, good evening, Reverend. Good evening, Mad Matt. Paulie Galtieri, I already said it twice. Des Ashton, looks like a repeat of Brown's pension grab. Yes, and he sold off the gold at the bottom of the market. Arse. Total 69, the day after Granny Starmer took away heating allowance, he gives hundreds of millions to Zelensky. Yes, 600 million. Going to talk about that as well. Yeah, the pensioners. And I mean, he said he was going to give him 3 billion a year while they're in power. So that could be up to 30 billion. Well, just stop it, man. Stop it. Leave it to NATO. Because once NATO kick off with Zelensky, then Russia's just going to nuke London and New York and parts of Europe. So it'll keep us warm in the winter. Obviously a nuclear winter, which is not cold. Stuart says, I see Starmer's letting 1,700 prisoners out. Yeah, I get it. That's this month. Wait till you see next month. Either just before or just after the budget. And Kerry Hawkins says, oh dear, the family man. I know. But I do have a take on that, baby. We'll talk about that in a little while. Leah says, hello, Adrian. I'm slightly late as I was re-watching your live from last Wednesday. Fabulous, Leah. That'll get the numbers up. Thank you very much. Welcome to the body of the Kirk. Budge up, everybody. Leah's in. Make sure there's a Piles ring free. That's an age thing. Fern says, evening all. Evening, Fern. I know you're not, but I just thought I would. Neil Cunningham, evening parishioners. Evening, Neil. Well, welcome to the body of the Kirk. And Paulie Galtieri, yeah, Beggar Zelensky is quids in again. I'm telling you, how many Bugattis is his wife going to buy in Paris? And handbags and shoes. I'm told the Milano Blahniks are a bit expensive nowadays. But I'm telling you, the way to cure all of this, just let NATO start firing rockets, which they might do soon, because, the British government have given shed loads to Zelensky so he can buy our arms and armaments. How does that work exactly? So is it rinse and repeat? So it's Volodymyr, mate, here's another 600, a couple of G's, couple of keys. That'll keep you going for a few days. And by the way, buy loads of our missiles. You can fire them in Russia, yeah, obviously, and that'll let you sort stuff out in Russia, because Volodymyr is not very happy. Oh, hang on, Amalia's in. We'll get back to your comments. Let me get to the bottom of them, so to speak. Leah, evening all. Evening, Leah. Martine. Hello, Martine. Welcome to the body of the Kirk. Stuart says it can't be as bad as the Trump and Biden debate. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. So technically, that's the second mass debate. The Bad Wolf Projects to Amalia. Full debate is on YouTube, Wall Street Journal, Channel Laughly. Kathy Harper, I thought I wasn't as sharp. He wasn't as sharp as usual. I know, Kathy, I said that a little earlier. I think there's something going on. There is something going on with the big lad. And cool, blimey, there's loads of comments. Let me just rearrange my screen. Thank you for your kindness, Neil. Need to acknowledge that. Cool. Thank you, Karen, for your kindness again. Thank you. And right, Reeve the Peeve claimed 3,700 quid for heating her Downing Street flat. Oh, at least Dick Turpin wore a mask. I know. I mean, how many pensioners could she have given the money to heating or eating over the winter? So, Teflon Guan's in, Adrian and chat. Libra's new euthanasia club are giving out free membership. I mean, I do get it. But, I mean, do you think he's reading the room correctly? I mean, all of them are off the same page. Now, I remember I interviewed Anthony Wedgwood Benn, or Tony Benn for short, back in the day. I interviewed him on my lunchtime programme. And he complained to me that he would go to Labour HQ on the bank of the Thames. Is it Millbank Tower? And he'd get there to his office and there'd be faxes there telling him, right, you've got to say this and you've got to say this and you've got to be on message. This was all Blair and Campbell. And now it appears that they're all robots. Kia, Tia, what do you want me to say? Say it out. Paulie says Starmer is going one further than the good Dr. Shipman, and he's probably going to kill more. Well, not him personally, but his difficult decisions. Well, if he told us that we weren't voting for change, but we were voting for difficult decisions, would he have kindly told us what those difficult decisions would be so we could make a decision as to whether to vote the beggar in? Kathy Harper, he's threatening them all. I know, he's at them all. Amalia Grassi, I just love the crunchy, thick crumble. Oh, I say. Is that an age thing, Amalia? I find out... Excuse me, I'm choking to death. Hang on. I think it was the mention of Amalia getting her oats. Oh, I say my Barry White voice is gone. Or was it Fat Harry White? Excuse me. Oh, wet swan's whistle. So anyway, and before we start, you Romans, there's 150 people watching this. 48 likes, 42 likes. You're utter wrong. Seemingly liking videos tells the algorithm, tells YouTube, oh, this is rather popular. Cheeky fecker, says Amalia, I know. Andy Turner, more like, oh, nearly. Moderator says, MPs voted 348 to 228 to axe the payment for all but the country's poorest pensioners, rejecting a Tory bid for the controversial policy to be blocked. Did Starmer threaten staff with the sack? Well, he couldn't have done that because they're all sackless. And if anybody hears anything like dog barking in the background, it's because we're dog sitting two lovely little things who, well, basically they run the house. So I just do as I'm told. Andy Turner, more like Harry Webb. There's a gag there somewhere, Andy. Peter Christie, can he like? Aye, Peter, aye. And Vix Tex, laughing her incontinence knickers off. I hear October 20th will be a big day in London with Tommy. What do you know? Napoleon. I was talking to a friend today who mentioned young Tommy. So he's coming over, if he is coming over, because I understand his conditions, his either bail conditions or release conditions means it's just going to kick off again. For him, personally, I think. But that's going to be after the budget. And I do believe that they're doing this to create chaos on the streets because, well, we'll kind of, I'll tell you what we'll do tonight. We'll get into 9/11 first, and we'll kind of, we'll just evolve. We'll just see where we go because there's lots to talk about. I want to interact with you personally, so please keep your stuff coming in the comments, and I'll write them down if I need to reference them later on. Nicholas said, just found out Louis Mountbatten was Prince Louis of Battenberg. I know. Blimey, Nicholas. You've only just done your research. Yeah, he was a Battenberger. Oh, he was definitely a Battenberger. Definitely. Honestly, that hibiscus is fabulous. So, everybody's got the feet under. Everybody's in. Everybody's commenting. Lovely. Pauline Makepeace, Amalia, yes, you always need a sous chef. I'm good at that. Right, you see, I get my my pork sword out. Very good at cutting meat. Very, very good with meat. Ray Norton, create a problem, see the reaction, and offer a solution. That's David Icke. Christ sauce. TR is a gatekeeper, fodder for the cabal. You've nailed that. Right, okay, let's get in. So the next live is this coming Sunday. Yes, I know it's Wednesday today. I'm just making sure. Next live Sunday, 15th of September 2024. I think it might be kicking off a bit because I did a whole load of research for tonight. And then after doing a whole load of research for 2 days and thinking that, I just thought, let's just after 23 years revisit 9/11. And if you are on X, go to my X feed. If you're not, you're going to have to join, man, because I can put stuff up on there that's very contentious that I can't hear. But there's some new video appearing that I've stuck on X. There's loads of it. Jeremy Kyle has been cleared as well. Stuart, stop that, you bad lad. Because I've actually seen the video. Let me just say this. In TV, there's no such thing as innocence. I think it was a travesty and a tragedy that the guy took his life. But it's, if you've seen the clip of him coming out talking to his missus and then talking about the lie detector and then Kyle getting stuck into him, it's a challenging watch. Two reasons. One, I think the guy was genuine in wanting to come to the Kyle show on ITV and actually try and tell some kind of truth, but it didn't turn out like that. And secondly, this was back in the day where this was back in the day. Now, you know, I was as guilty as some. I was a cantankerous old tart on the radio. Stuart says I've seen it. It was tough to watch. I agree, Stuart. I was a proper obstreperous old tart on the radio and got into people's ribs sometimes. But these are different days, and I'm not sure we can look backwards with the same glasses we wear for clarity today back then, because back then it was a completely different time. I know, I've mentioned Jerry Springer, and Springer didn't want to do anymore. But that video that I watched, I felt the guy was being heartfelt and genuine, and not quite sure how he thought he was going to be declared innocent of all charges, and he just failed every question. So we have to go with what the inquest has decided, and they've decided that the TV program and the members of staff on there are not liable for anything. They didn't cause the suicide, and to a certain extent, I agree that they didn't kill him. They didn't, or the suicide was his responsibility and his responsibility on his own. But his mental state, who knows? This is 2024. I mean, a lot of people are suffering with their mental health just from the pandemic, and this is years and years and years ago. So I'm not suggesting anything other than the inquiry has found what the inquiry has found. I know how telly works. I know how radio used to work, and it's horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. So that came out today. Bad Wolf Project, a holding pen for the Jeremy Kyle show. What's the Salford? A holding pen for the Jeremy Kyle. Andrew James, Springer was pretty much scripted. Kyle show toyed with real people. I know, and their emotions. But as I say, when I've been doing phone-ins on the radio since 1989, very innocent in the 80s. Unless you were James Stanage, in which case you're the king. But as we got into the 90s, the game changed. People were emboldened by, phone-ins have been on air nearly 20 years, and you were, as a phone-in presenter, you were allowed, sort of, to get stuck into people and to strip them down and I used to liken my phone-ins to a jousting arena. It was wonderful. Hang on a second. Let me just grab this. That hurt. I saw a thing in a London news site that says ministers have refused to rule out restrictions or changes to older Londoners' free bus and tube passes. Just stay home and die is the message this year. Let me write that down, because I am going to pass comment about that. Because when you know the destination, it's easy to work out what they're doing. And if you also know the objective and the destination, you know what happened in New Zealand and Canada and Australia is happening here, and Come Face Harris is exactly the same as Starmer. They're saying she's Mrs. Flip Flop. I was like, oh, hang on a second. Has Starmer had some implants put in? No, it's Kamala Harris. So can you not see that this is a worldwide promulgation of stakeholder capitalism? It's not called communism anymore, because communism never worked. It's stakeholder capitalism. That's what's coming. To the left, to the left, to the left, right, march. So the right is rising up. But again, it's to give it in its most simplistic terms, it's not the left and the right. And I've told you this, please, 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 just take this for what it's meant to be. It's all about the human condition, humanity. So these politicians are merely puppets. They're not in charge. They're not running the show. It's somebody else. Could it be the Rothschilds and the central banks? Could it be World Economic Forum in Davos? Have they become the bogey man? Putin's Kremlin to Beijing and Budapest, what the world thought of the Trump-Harris debate. Oh, okay, that's BBC News. Oh, did I say that out loud? If you didn't see it, you have to watch it on replay. Christ Source says, come on, Jeremy Kyle, divide and conquer on TV. At the basic level, it's been divide and conquer forever. Starmer is just making it faster. A Blair puppet. He is. But you see, the clever thing about these politicians, let me just get rid of that. The clever thing about these politicians is once they've done politics, and Blair is at the top of the food chain, he's as high up the food chain as you can go. Honi soit qui mal y pense. Tony, or is it Anthony? Bow Street Magistrates. Google it. Charles Linton. Bow Street. You'll find it. So he's as high up the food chain as he is liable to go. What the game is about now is money. Money. Show me the Benjamins. Show me the money. That's what he's at. It's just, look, he's got shed loads. If you look at the, I've uploaded a video today about young Charles Linton, and I suggest if you haven't, please watch it, because there's evidence and information in there. Tony Blair, the Tony Blair Foundation, taking money from Bill Gates. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Well, she's not in it anymore. She gave it back to Bill, citing what he got up to with on Epstein's Lolita Express, mate. And Vix Tex says it's always all about the money. I know. But Tony Blair has taken donations from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Why? He was some kind of Middle East envoy. Why? He's a Catholic. Why? And now that he's got this, it's not Witty, it's one of the others that used to stand there and go, next slide, next slide, next slide. He's got him on his foundation board, and they've got all these movers and shakers. So why is that? I'll tell you, it's really simple. It's all about government contracts. So he's looking at, and I told you this months ago, individual digital identifier. And I told you on the live on Sunday that we've already got them with passports, driver's license, national insurance numbers. We've got enough identifiers. We don't need any more. But seemingly, we've got Europe going, oh, right, you're not in. King Charles issues heartfelt health update. And the quote is, you don't stay young for long. I know there are certain people watching this channel that will love to comment about this, and I'll do it in a moment. But I said to you on Sunday, there's the EES, the European Entry System, and ETIAS, the European Exit System. Yeah, if you want, I'm being facetious. But it looks like that, you know, the biometrics little thingy on your passport, if you've got a recent passport, it has all of your details and information on. So you go in, it scans your details, job's a good one, yeah, he's not wrong, and he can come in and out of the country. A country, European country. But they want your physog, and they want your fingerprints. But I've told you before, AI can't scan, CCTV can't scan beards. So watch that Blair thing that I've uploaded today, simply because all of the answers are in there. I want to mention a couple of legendary Battenbergers who've been very kind and supporting the channel. I will get to Neil on Sunday. Neil, because I always mention the legendary Battenbergers at the beginning. Rich, as ever, thank you very much for your continued support. And Stuart says, Adrian, just a little support because you never fail to interact, educate and entertain. That's kind of the watchword of phone-ins and radio that I used to do, Stuart. But again, thank you for your continued support both. Let's get into 9/11, because although you think that, or may think that, oh, it's 23 years, Adrian, what on earth are you talking about it now for? Because it really applies to what's going on in America at the moment. America's breaking down. The fabric of America is gone. It's done. They've got liars, cheats, fornicators. Can you not remember the two gay guys shagging in their good house, the political house, and nothing was done about it? Just a couple of guys having their way with each other in their political establishment. I'm trying to dance around here so I don't get caught out by anything. Which is why I'm saying it this way. But, you know, we had that. We've got Nancy Pelosi, who makes a shitload of money on 190 grand a year. She's like a multi millionairess. It'll get to hundreds by the time she leaves that house. So it applies to today because let's do it via the comments. Stuart says, I was 8 when 9/11 happened. I wasn't. I was on air at Real Radio in South Wales. So let me just give you some background, because I am going to ask you some questions. And while I'm telling you this, I'm going to ask you, what do you remember of 9/11? Now, in certain circumstances, my memory is exceptional. And it's almost like if I went on to Mastermind, I'd go 9/11 conspiracy theories and I'd get every bloody answer right. Because on the day, so the question for you to put into the comments, please, is what do you remember about 9/11? Where were you? What were you doing? Who were you with? When was the first time that you heard something had happened in America? Now, remember, we're hours ahead. I think we're 5 ahead of New York, 8 or 9 ahead of West Coast. So it depends how old you were, depends what you remember, depends what you were talking about as a family, as a community, as a unit. Maybe in school, like Stuart was 8-year-old. Maybe you were that old. The fact that I hadn't dreamt about it some months earlier freaked me out. Pauline, wow. Vix Tech says I was on my way to work. So it was 5 hours ahead. It was kind of 9:30 New York time, like 9 o'clock, 9:15 when the first plane went in. And it was a little diddly plane, not the two big ones that went into the Twin Towers, or the one that was shot down in Pennsylvania, the one that seemingly went into the Pentagon. Aye, right. How do we end shite, as a wise man once said. So what were you doing? Where were you going? Who were you with? Just give me kind of a scene set. Your world on 9/11, 2001. Andrew James says, flipping through the channels is what I remember in my bedroom. Then went to watch Sky TV with my parents to watch other news feeds from America. Paul Morton says, I was off sick when it happened, couldn't believe it, and felt it was surreal and still do. So I was working for Real Radio in South Wales doing a late night phone-in, and I kind of got up about late morning, as you do. I normally didn't get to sleep till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, finishing at 1 o'clock in the morning. So I got up, went to the gym, was actually talking to some of the personal trainers in David Lloyd's in Cardiff. And it carried it almost live. It carried the news channels. All of a sudden, all of the channels on the TV screens in the gym were bing, 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 bing. And one of the lads came on and went, you'll never guess what's happened. A plane's flown into a tower in New York. Ooh, let's have a look at this then. And then I saw the big one going, the first one going to the big one going to the tower. And I just said to them, lads, what you're watching is history. Make sure you watch all of this, because this is massive. Got to go. Ran downstairs, the quickest shower ever. And the radio station, Real Radio, was just outside of Cardiff. It was like 5 minutes from David Lloyd's. And at that point, all the tellies were going. We were taking all of the news feeds from all of the news agencies around the world. They were coming straight into the newsroom. We were discussing what I was going to do that night, if I was going to do it at all. And the bosses were like, we're not sure, Adrian, we're not sure. We then started to take, so that was sort of early afternoon by the time we got into the radio station. And by the time we got to mid-afternoon, we were taking New York radio stations to try and get their feed live where we were, so that we could get information out to our listeners, because, you know, we're other side of the pond. How would we get the information? But the New York radio stations, we would have someone sit there and go, we're going to go from, I don't know, Kiss FM over to, I don't know, Sirius One or whatever it was called. And we were trying to keep people updated when the second plane went into the other tower. And it was just like, somebody said, it was surreal. Christ Soul says, the timelines changed that day. If you're interested, watch Thomas Sheridan. He has an interesting take on the events. Interesting, thank you for that. I'll have a look. Thomas Sheridan, YouTuber. As I say, I was dealing with it live. And it was about 5 o'clock when I'm going to get to WTC7. Who said that? Newty Brown. I'm going to talk about that in a second. There is a couple of videos of WTC7 on my X feed that I put up this afternoon. And do you know, remember the legendary BBC feed where the reporter's going, oh yes, WTC7's it's collapsed, and as you can see, the two towers are behind me, and WTC7's collapsed. And hang on, bloody WTC7's still there. Was it Janie Stanway? Linda Lewis says, it was my 11th wedding anniversary. We were flying over the Atlantic from Gatwick to Jamaica. Well, they pulled all the flights, didn't they? Wow, did they? Okay, they cleared all the flights because they didn't know originally. There was it real world or exercise? So there was an exercise ongoing that morning for exactly the same thing. Planes crashing in to the Twin Towers. And if you wonder where they got their playbook from, American planes made in America. Yeah, I get all that. Who said that? Teflon. And I told this to David Icke when I interviewed him on the BBC, on my BBC show, that yes, they cleared the skies, but they didn't. They got the Bin Laden family out of America. They flew them out of America. And also, I can't go into too much detail, but there's intelligence places around this country, and a couple of Americans just walked through the door. You know, the usual, dark suit, dark glasses, and a very, very, very close friend of mine who I respect immensely, and I know what he tells me is the truth. He was there, and he says, hang on, what are you doing here? I thought they closed all the flights. I thought they were getting them off, getting them out of the air and getting them landed. Some of them landed Greenland or elsewhere in Europe. And they went, that's for the public. Ooh. So originally there was 13 planes in the air that they thought were designated attack. They certainly thought there was 5 or 6. But initially there was word of 13. They didn't know what was in the air. In that first hour, that golden hour, it's chaos and mayhem. And one of the persons on the exercise said they were looking at one particular flight, and he had to say, is this real world or is this exercise? And they said, no, it's real world. So let's deal with, where can we go? So I went on air that night. Let's kind of take a step back. I was on air that night, and started at 10, went on, and I said to my listeners, as I do with you here, you're much more knowledgeable than me. So tell me what I need to know. And a pilot who follows me on social media, he rang in and said, well, they would have known which airplanes were hijacked immediately because the pilots are trained to put a 3-digit code into the transponder. I agree with you, Christ. Is it Christ or Christ? So that person said to me, they'll have had a 3-digit transponder. So when they thought that people were trying to get into the flight cabin, they would have put that transponder in to let air traffic control know that the plane had been hijacked. But seemingly that wasn't done. So the 2 planes that go in to the Twin Towers, it's a bit like JFK being assassinated. They've worked out now. It wasn't the geezer in the book depository store. No. It wasn't him. It was somebody else. It was Woody Harrelson's dad from the drains in front of him, because that's why he got hit there, because it was coming up and at his head. And it was CIA, and there was all kinds of bits and pieces. So look, if America can assassinate a president and then cover it up, they can do anything they want. So I go on air. Somebody, a pilot, told me about the transponder, which wasn't common knowledge then. Alan says JFK and Marilyn Monroe. Woof woof. Yeah. And his brother Bobby. She was some girl, Marilyn. Teflon Guan, best man walked on the moon as well. No, because they can't get past the Van Allen belt, can they? Not that it's named after me, of course. The Van Allen belt is a belt of radiation around the whole of this globe that a human being cannot pass through. So I don't know what's going on with Elon Musk saying we're going to Mars. I mean, how heavy has that spaceship got to be? Lead lined, so that the radiation won't touch the occupants of the interplanetary craft, said Karen Carpenter. And it was was the director of Red Rum, Eyes Wide Shut, and I can see him. I can't remember his name. Anyway, so he was dropping little Easter eggs in all of his films after that, because he reckoned that he was the guy that filmed it. And subsequently, Stanley Kubrick, thank you very much. And subsequently, people are going to, so they're taking the video of Man on the Moon, and people are going to the place where they filmed it and showing you the background, and it's exactly the same. So, what's his face? One of the guy that first walked on the moon, he's now carked it. He's shuffled off. But the other one chinned this guy. This guy went, here's a Bible. Stick your hand on this and tell me you walked on the moon. Boom, take that. And now he's come out and said, oh, no. Des. Yeah, utter wrong. And Des Ashton says, who says the Van Allen belt exists? Scientists. Not me. I'm not promulgating anything. I'm not, cascading this. Klingons on Tracy's Tower, Paul Morton. Buzz Aldrin. Thank you, Peter Sadler. So Buzz Aldrin, he's come out and gone, oh, no, we never went to the moon. And everybody went, yeah, you did. So you see, they can inject the poison so far in, it becomes so believable that it's like the film The Matrix. People are so inured by their life and what they believe to be real, they will fight to keep it. But Buzz Aldrin's come out and said, oh, no, we never did. Brilliant. Tower Block Tracy says, comment of the night so far, is the Van Allen belt a 38 waist? That is funny. Newty Brown, 7-7 ripple effect. I know. And there's a picture on the 7-7 of seemingly the bombers. And one's arm is behind kind of a London. Anyway, let's get back to the 9/11, because I knew we would go all over the place, because I know you love a conspiracy. But 9/11. So we'll get to something that I've used as an example. Now, I've said to you that I was going on air that night. The management were a little nervous because I was a bit of a gobshite, and they didn't know what I was going to say. Neither did I, to be fair, but I was just going to tell the truth. And so there was all these negotiations going on. Not sure, Adrian, I mean, maybe. You just keep doing your research, and I was just eating all the information. And as I say, I was watching all of the TVs, all of the news feed from around the world, and then I saw one thing, which I have held on to because these saw it. And it was President George W. Bush. And he says, the shooting down of that plane is the most difficult decision I've had to take as president. I'll tell you again, it's a direct quote, because he was asked by a reporter. The shooting down of that plane is the most difficult decision I've had to take as president. Now, which plane would that be? Because there weren't that many that were shot down. So then, years, I mean, it must have been, hang on, when did I, so it must have been 5 or 6 years later. I do remember Trump on 9/11. I mean, he was in New York. So I was in a relationship with a news editor of a radio station, and I told her this, and she was like, "Oh, you and your bloody conspiracy theories, you're talking out your backside, man." I said, "No, these peepers saw it, and I don't know why it hasn't been used again, or it hasn't surfaced, because the FBI took everything, all of the TV stations, possibly radio stations, but they took the CCTV from the gas station or the petrol station across from the Pentagon, so that, and they released 3 or 4 images, but they kept the most important one, which would have showed what went into the Pentagon. Oh, they kept that. Oh no, we're not going to give you that. We'll give you 3 or 4 other frames, but we're not giving you that frame, which shows that it was a bloody missile. It wasn't a plane. It was a missile. Anyway, let's get back to, that's the shooting down of that plane is the most difficult decision I've had to take as president. Quote from George W. And as I say, 5 or 6 years later, it must have been 2006, 2007, the BBC did this like docudrama around 9/11. And what happened was, it was all the stuff that you know, and yeah, that was okay. And then Cheney, Condoleezza Rice, if you remember her, and all the other staffers at the White House were taking into a situation room in the bowels of the White House, taken into a situation room. And because W was up in the air in Air Force One, Cheney had to take command. And in this docudrama, and I don't know whether you can find it on BBC iPlayer, I'm sure it's somewhere. In this docudrama, Dick Cheney says, "I've just been on the phone to the president." The president says, "Shoot the planes down." Now that's nowhere. So I'm sitting with this news editor that I was seeing, and she went, "Oh my God, Adrian, I'm so sorry." And I just thought, oh well, Foxtrot Oscar, up yours. Because I'd been telling the truth. She didn't or couldn't believe the truth. And I've just given the truth to you. And I don't know how it's going to land with you, because it's very difficult to digest, because the propaganda that was piped out. I mean, can you remember? So it would have been the plane that was shot down in Pennsylvania. And they say, "Oh yeah, they had a struggle with the it was shot down. American aircraft, fighter aircraft, obviously, it must have been. It was military." And can you not remember a few months later that there was another plane crashed in New York because one of the engines landed in somebody's backyard? And so it was a military exercise, and that's why those involved in the military exercise were saying, is this exercise a real world? Because in that moment, it's a tabletop exercise that many of the emergency services do: military, police, ambulance, fire brigade. They all do them in readiness for certain situations. And because the Twin Towers had been around for a while, they had done various tabletops. So they were it was a military exercise on the morning of 9/11 that they were confused as to whether it was real or not. And when they were told it was real, it was like, holy shit. And the world is watching on TV screens while these people doing the exercise are saying, what do you want us to do? What do you want us to do? Do you want to get us to get involved and support our colleagues? Because this is real, this is not exercise. But the thing that alerted me, and it's always the subtleties, the owner got, was it billions? Because it was full of asbestos, wasn't it? And to get the asbestos out of the towers was going to cost an amazing amount of money, an extortionate amount of money. So that kind of helped. They were lucky. Stuart says, my mum told me about the engine falling. Paul Morton, Saudi oil, Arab Spring. Get it? Oh, I get it. Teflon, the owner of the Twin Towers, got 2 lots of insurance. Oof. Nice work if you can get it. Newty Brown, the impact site in Pennsylvania didn't look like the plane had hit the ground. I agree. And it was... so the thing that alerted me, and it's a lot of the time, it's not what they say, it's what they don't say that sort of the hairs on the back of your neck go, hang on a second. So George Bush, the quote that I've given you, the shooting down of that plane was the most difficult decision I've had to take as president. Prior to 9/11, he was always on the bloody golf course. Slacker, didn't do any work. Maybe he knew what was coming. Maybe Condoleezza Rice. Maybe Dick Cheney. Mind you, Dick Cheney can shoot people and get away with it. Newty Brown, oh yeah. Teflon Guan, yeah. There's Ashton. Tactical exercises without troops. Toot. Might have been, Des. Might have been, but I know, and that's a direct quote. Is this real world or is this exercise? Because the air traffic controllers didn't know, couldn't get a grasp on what was going on 23 years ago. So George Bush, he's in a classroom full of kids, and again, I can't get away with it on here, but I can on X. I've put the piece of video of the kids doing the reading for George W. Bush, the president, where he's looking at a book upside down, remember? But have you actually listened to the words that the kids are trying to say that is being prompted by the teacher? It's something like kite, steel, concrete, falling, or something else. It's just, and this is 23 years, and still I'm learning new stuff about it. And I looked at it for the first time today and I thought, holy shit, who chose those words? I mean, there's no such thing as coincidence in this universe. Ria Odell, I always wondered what stories got hidden in plain sight or shelved because of 9/11. Tons of them. Bad Wolf Project, breaking. Labour government suffers first defeat in Lords. Starmer to take action against MPs who defied him on winter fuel vote. He's gone. He's done. They're setting him up. They are setting Sir Keir Starmer up. He thinks he's an operator. Oh, he's a barrister. My dad was a toolmaker, and I was a head of Crown Prosecution Service. He's dealing with snakes. He's gone. He's gone after the general election. Mark my words. They've set him up. They used him as the battering ram to get Labour into power. I mean, would Ginger Growler, if she'd headed up Labour, would they get into power? Possibly not. Would have given more votes to Reform. Reform got 4 million votes. Labour got 8 million odd. And Reform got 3 seats. How does that work then? Proportional representation, anyone? So I do believe that he's gone, and he's fighting desperately for his political life. Starmer is a tool, yeah, because his dad was a toolmaker. We see evidence of his work every single day. Gore Vidal once remarked that George Bush only has 2 books on his shelf and he hasn't finished colouring in the first one yet. This was confirmed on 9/11. Very good, O'Rourke. Teflon Guan, Monotone, Starmer will not be missed. I know. Foxtrot Oscar, thanks very much. But you have to understand that the cabal, the people that are operating this whole coup d'etat, he's just going to be collateral damage. Anyway, the thing that got we'll go back to 9/11. Thank you to Bad Wolf Project. The thing that got me was he was in school, so immediately they thought it was an terrorist attack on America. They'd never had a terrorist, well, they kind of had some, but not to this level. So the first thing that they do is they get the Commander-in-Chief, Air Force One, get it up in the air. Get him on a plane and up in the air and work out, get a SITREP, situational report, and find out what's going on. So they were in contact with Dick Cheney in the Situation Room in the bowels of the White House. As I said, this was in the BBC docudrama. And Cheney and Bush, were, as Vice President and President, were in communication and deciding what to do. Bush, on Air Force One, went straight to New York and went to the Twin Towers, or the site of the Twin Towers. And the first thing that got my Mork calling Orson, Bush went straight to the site. And when he got there were men, obviously, close protection officers, shouting, USA, USA, USA. And I thought, why would they be shouting that? Nobody knows what this is. This is like half an hour, 3/4 of an hour into it all. Certainly, very quickly after the towers collapsed. Why would they be shouting that? Bad actors. And then shortly after that, there was, it's called a brick in military terms, where kind of 4 or 6 men with a battering ram at the front go into like a house or a hotel. They went into this hotel live on camera. They were waiting for their cue. Can you remember this? They went in and the American media was saying that there were terrorists in that hotel. It was the terrorists' command and control center where they did everything from there. And this brick went in and went into the room. And then like 10, 15 minutes later came out for a fag going, oh, there's nobody in there. Hang on a second. This is America. This is a country that's right at the cutting edge of any military equipment. And they said there was nobody in there. And I looked and thought, USA, USA. And oh, hang on, that's propaganda. Why are they saying that? And oh, yeah, we've traced a call from Osama bin Laden in his caves in Afghanistan. And it's him. It's him. And I thought, there's a rabbit away here. I'm not feeling this. There's something just not right. And at that point, when your instinct kicks in, you'll be exactly the same with some of the stuff that we're getting over the last 4 or 5 years. You just go, that doesn't feel right. There's something going on. Anyway, the bosses are still, Adrian, we're not sure. We're not sure if we're going to put you on air tonight. But, anyway, they got me on air at 10 o'clock, which was a relief, to be fair. Executive hand relief. And I'd seen all of this stuff. I just thought, Towers come down. And there's now sort of a conspiracy theory around about what was done to the 2 towers, and that some people are saying, I'm not necessarily subscribing to this, but some people are saying there was no planes that went into the towers. Now, if I can drag this out of the back of my head, at the time I was talking to military pilots, and they said that the second plane going into the tower, as the plane was from a long way out, was coming into the tower, it sort of did that and then that into the tower. So it kind of raised up and then went into the tower downward for maximum impact. And the military pilots were saying to me, that's a military pilot move. That's not commercial airline pilot. That's military. And I said, yeah, but they're they're sand dancers. These are not military pilots. And they said, well, there was a fly-by-wire. There was a remote, and I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to do my own research. But there was a name of something where they could fly aeroplanes without pilots on them. And I said to these military pilots, how do you know that? Well, I can't tell you. But you've got to keep it to yourself. But it has a specific name, and it's fly-by-wire. And they were saying to me, the reason why they don't tell anyone that they have this facility, and this is back in, 23 years ago, they'd had that facility since the 90s. And the only reason that they didn't tell anyone was because it would scare the passengers. They wouldn't get on a plane if they thought there was no pilots or anybody flying the plane. It was some military pilot in a bunker or somewhere on a military site, just a bit like a PlayStation game. He's just flying the plane, doing whatever, but he's not on the plane itself. So we don't know whether there was actually anybody on the planes. We don't know actually if there was any planes, but there's still new footage coming out that, as I say, it's all on my X feed today, because I'll struggle to get it on here. And so the USA chant, the president saying, the shooting down of those planes has been the hardest decision I've had to take as president. That's not what you're being told. Remote fly. Yeah, it's a remote fly, but it has a specific name. They'd perfected it in the 90s. So by the time we got to 9/11, it was perfected, but they just couldn't put it on commercial airliners because people wouldn't get on a plane. Would you get on a plane if you thought there was nobody up front and it was going to be all computer controlled? Or it was going to be controlled by some military pilot in a military airfield somewhere? Very few people would. Kerry Hogan's remote fly, Ray Norton, and the building was powered down for electrical work. Yeah, it was Ray. So it's, and the melting point of the steel structure of the building was, I think it's over 2,000 degrees, and they had to use explosives to get it to melt. And the burning point of airline fuel is not 2,000 degrees. And somebody said, oh, they've been pulled. Now, pulled is a technical term for they've been demolished. And then, because there was so much confusion around it, everyone had forgotten that there'd been a press conference the day before by Donald Rumsfeld. And this is on my X. Donald Rumsfeld had said, oh, yeah, well, lads, $2.3 trillion has gone missing. $2.3 trillion earmarked for the militaries. Gone missing. Thermite. Yeah, it was thermite. Thank you, Ray. They used thermite because there's traces of thermite in. Why did they take all of the rubble and all the steel and then not allow anybody to see it or get their hands on it or investigate it? They just kind of barged it away. I think put it on a barge and floated it away. Nobody could get access to it. So they couldn't work. They couldn't test it to see if thermite had been used, or whether it was just a series of unfortunate accidents, or whether it was a terrorist attack. To this day, I mean, I've said this to you before. Mohammed Atta. Remember that for donkey's years, I've read all the newspapers every day. Some sticks, some doesn't. Mostly the important stuff stays in there. And Mohammed Atta, this is in the Sun newspaper. There was a double page, well, it's more than double page spread, but one of the double page spread had a quote from Muhammad Atta's father. And Mo Atta's father said, I've had a call from my son. He's in Egypt. And he's saying, Dad, they're saying I flew one of those planes into the towers. I'm in Egypt. I can't have done that. Bet you can't find a copy of that son anywhere. I had one in my archive. And I made sure that I kept it in the amount of house moves it's been lost. And I'm gutted because it was there in the copy of the Sun. Muhammad Atta's father said, my son is in Egypt. I've taken a call from him, and I'm slightly paraphrasing, but he says, Dad, they're saying that it was me. I was one of the pilots. Well, I can't be. I'm in Egypt. And can I ask you a really serious question? Don't know whether you'll have the answer to this, but the temperature, seemingly, that airline fuel burns at, that melts steel columns, that brings down two massive buildings to rubble. But they don't burn passports. Because remember, well, we found a car. We found a car, and the car's definitely terrorist. It's got like terrorist written on the side, and it's got terrorist fingerprints, and it's definitely a terrorist's car. Well, it must be, because we found his passport. So hang on. The fuel that burned the whole thing, melted the steel, brought the buildings down, and didn't burn a passport? How do we end shite, man? To think we're nuts. So there's all these, I can't remember the Latin term for it, but they use it in the legal profession. If one thing's wrong, it's all wrong. So I've given you enough that they've had to cover up. The Bad Wolf Project. Flashpoint of aviation fuel is minimum of 38 degrees, 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, to melt the steel, it had to be around 2,000 degrees, I'm sure. I'm sure that's what I was told. Orokida says the passport thing was hilarious. I know, the thing we're stupid, man. Oh, it's just the breeders. They're stupid. Just tell them stuff. So, like I say, that hotel where the military, the brick, or the FBI or whomever went in, 6 with a battering ram at the front. I mean, it was like the entrance to the hotel, and I was thinking, all right, if they're in the hotel somewhere, why the hell are you going in through the front door to scare the receptionist? Is somebody after a bit of a slap and tickle with a receptionist or something? Oh yeah, I've got a gun. Do you fancy some? And then, so if the terrorist is in the hotel and the terrorist watching the news, they know that some really bad men come in with guns to kill him. I mean, how stupid are the Americans? So it was all this, it's the chaos, it's the confusion. Bad Wolf Project, falsus in uno, falsus in omnibo. Yeah, that's it. If one thing's wrong, it's all wrong. Alan says steel armor-plated battleships did burn through during World War II, but not buildings that were pulled and they came down in free fall in their footprint. You can't, unless you're demolishing something, unless they were pulled, those towers came down at free fall speed into their own footprint. And the other thing is, did you not ask yourself the question at the time? Now, I know some people were quite young, probably wouldn't, but I was, a journalist, doing phone-ins, doing all that. Can you remember all the people? There's two really famous pictures. One of a black girl who's literally covered in grey dust. Remember that one? And then there's another guy, I think he was a teacher or something, and he was covered in dust. Both of them said it was cold. So how could that dust, and literally there was nothing left. They found about 300 humans that they could identify. They said there was nearly 3,000 died. And there was all these other bodies, the jumpers we've seen, and it was horrible, horrible, horrible to watch. But there was the jumpers jumping out of the towers. The only thing I can presume is they thought, if I stay here, I'm going to die. If I jump out, there may be a chance. But they never found any of them. How? Because the people that were covered in dust said it was cold. So how could it be cold when we were told that the underground station under the Twin Towers there was molten steel? It was the fire brigades and men and women couldn't go in because it was so dangerous, it was so hot, and yet above ground it was cold. So can you see how the Dust Lady, that's it, Vic's text, the Dust Lady has since passed away due to respiratory disease. Awful, terrible Vic's text. I know, I remember the story, but a lot of the emergency services that responded, the emergency responders, they had lung problems, asbestos. That's why I say there was so much asbestos in those two towers. It would have taken trillions to clean it all out the towers. It was easier just to pull it. Lottie Martin's in the body of the Kirk, everyone. Andrew James at the Bad Wolf Project, you are both expert and expert. Paulie Galtieri, asbestos killed so many people, it was unbelievably sad. I know, and they didn't get any compensation for it. There was all those that died in the line of their duty, whether it was police officers or safety people. I don't know about you, but one of the most haunting things that I remember from that day was the alarms going off, the personal alarms going off in empty buildings. And it was like, it was like a zombie apocalypse film where it was like lift music, and it was playing in the background, and the alarms were going off. And to this day, I can still hear it in my head. And I mean, I've always wanted to go, but I resolutely don't believe what I'm being told. I don't believe the official narrative. So I don't know whether I would have any integrity standing where those two towers fell and be able to pay any respect, because I know they retrieved about 300 bodies or 300 human parts when there was nearly 3,000 people died. How were they obliterated to dust? They couldn't find any, and the dust was carted off, so they couldn't test for human remains. It just stinks. Des Ashton, some 3,000 lost souls. Such a tragedy. I agree, Des. I agree. You know, some people were just going into work. We were hearing all these stories of people that didn't go into work that day for one reason or another, and some people changed days that they went in. And there was some big operators, some big commercial operators that told all of their people not to go in. Or again on X, sorry to keep mentioning this because I know quite a few of you don't have a profile on there, but I've uploaded a video today of who? The Bond baddie, Klaus Schwab. And he was in New York that day, as were some high-level, high-ranking Israeli government ministers. Why would Klaus Schwab be in New York on the very day that the Twin Towers came down? I mean, that's a hell of a coincidence. Do you not agree? Insane coincidence. Not that I'm believing him. I mean, he was there genuinely because he had coffee with some American reporter. And this video that I've uploaded to X, they're saying, oh, yeah, we had breakfast together. And I remember Donald Trump being on the radio talking about it. I have a piece of audio. In fact, what I'll tell you now, I have a piece of audio that has some of, within the BBC, it's called Actuality. So it's sound recording of what was going on. And I have some actuality over the top of a song. The problem is with this, I'd get a copyright strike for using it. So I'd have to find a way of, with my team, of being able to put pictures and stuff on top of it. Might have to go on X, because there's very little copyright difficulties there. But it's a harrowing piece of actuality and news. And I remember Howard Stern broadcasting. We didn't use him for our broadcast on Real Radio. So for the couple of days afterwards, we were taking live feeds, and we didn't have great bandwidth then. This is the beginning of the noughties. We were barely. It was still a 28K modem, I think, at that point. We didn't have any fast speed or anything. So for 2 or 3 days afterwards, we didn't put anybody on. And there's a thing in radio called the obituary procedure, obit procedure for short. And normally, if it's like the Queen Mother, William, Charles, hopefully they'll have a long life, and I wish them good health. But when they go, whether it's Westminster Bridge or whether it's whatever bridge they name them for, radio stations go into, like Diana. When Diana died, murdered, we went into obit procedure for the full week until after the funeral. And most radio stations will just play inoffensive instrumental music, and we'll make announcements every now and again, and we'll run news bulletins so that people can get a feel of what is going on. And all of that is worked in the background. We used to have obit procedure cases with everything in, scripts in, how to, step by step, A to Z of what to do and how to do it and where to do it and why. Chris Saw says dustification. Interesting. I mean, it's only recently that I've thought about it. It's obvious. The dust is everywhere. But they didn't try to find traces of humans that were in the towers, if they were. I mean, somebody said earlier that they switched the power off. And people were, when the planes went in, the holes seemingly that the planes left, there were people coming into the holes and looking down. I mean, I can't even comprehend the terror that must have gripped all those people in those towers. But $2.3 trillion went missing. It was the shooting down of those planes is the hardest decision I've taken as president. Quote. And you can't find it anywhere. And yet the official narrative is that it was the terrorists fighting with the brave passengers that brought the Pennsylvania plane down. And the military aircraft was still in the air for hours and days afterwards because they thought there was another attack coming. So one went into the tower, another one went into a tower, one went into the Pentagon, and they were waiting for others. They didn't know what was going to be attacked. They didn't know what was what, so they just presumed they'd get all the military up and then fly around, and if there's a jet somewhere that's erroneous and goes off flight plan, or they put in, we've been hijacked, then just shoot them down. Just shoot them down. Audit report supposed to be exposed that day. Yeah. Alan says W was thick as a plank, though. Well, you can see the look on his face, because I'm sure he knew beforehand. The official narrative is that he didn't. He had no clue. But you can just see his backside went 50p sixpence, 50p sixpence. And you can just see. And that right there, 9/11, is a black swan event. Because a black swan event is defined by the world changes after that event. The world is not the same. So some of the little bits and pieces that have happened, yeah, maybe. But 9/11 was definitely a black swan event. The black swan event that I predicted last year to happen this year still hasn't happened. Because the world is still the same-ish. Hasn't happened yet. The assassination of Donald Trump, that would have been a black swan event. And it was close because the world would change completely. Lioness sleeps no more. How come the military didn't scramble when the plane came in? Because they were having a military exercise, military tabletop as live exercise. So they had people in the flight towers, and I said at the beginning of all of this, they were asking, is this exercise or is this real world? Oh, sorry, is this real world or is this exercise? Because they didn't know whether it was just part of the stuff that was being thrown at them for them to react to and go, yeah, we got it. We'll have a slice of Battenberg. Brilliant. We captured that. They didn't know whether it was real or not. And they had to ask. And the people, their managers were going, it's not exercise. It's not exercise. It's real. So all of a sudden you're like, oh, shit. And you're having to be professional. But all the flights everywhere around the world were grounded. Over Europe, America, the Atlantic, grounded. Because the whole world came to a stop. And that's a black swan event. I wish Donald Trump long life and good health. But if anything happens to him, his assassination would have been a black swan event. Because the world changes after that. So you tell me, what's your take on 9/11? Do you believe that there's nothing to believe? Do you believe that it was just terrorists trying to bring America to its knees? Last time anybody had tried that was the Japanese. But America knew about Pearl Harbor, seemingly. What is your take on all of this? Please, in the comments, I'd love to hear them. Ray Norton, DEW weapons. Explain that DEW, please, Ray. Paulie Galtieri, the planes were real. They had to hit the floors where the Israeli art students were working on. Interesting. The old Bovril, I don't know either way. Stuart, that was going to be my question. If Trump had been killed, what would have happened in America? Civil unrest. I'll get to that in a moment because I want to talk about Americana. Des Ashton says massive distraction event. Brilliant, thank you. Malia Grassi, I find it hard to believe any mainstream narrative anymore. There was something out in the papers today, which I should have really mentioned, that people now are not getting their news from the traditional mainstream media or the news. They're getting it online. They're getting it from channels like this, who just tell the truth. So you know what's coming, don't you? As a little aside. So France have got the chief exec of Telegram. America's trying to silence the whole channel, saying, oh, it's drug dealers on the dark web and it's this, that and the other. So they're giving you a solution. They're saying to you, bad people, don't touch them, we'll deal with it. In America, TikTok, they're saying, oh, TikTok, it's bad, it's Chinese, it's bad. But people are on there. TikTok is a huge social media platform. But America needs to stop it. And now, remember, to Tia Kia, remember we had royal assent for the online safety bill. Have you seen anything to do with that since it got royal assent in the King's speech? Of course you haven't, because they've sent it back for amendments. Oh, I wonder what they're going to do. So now they're talking about X. Seemingly, I saw somewhere today that Elon Musk is being called to the Houses of Parliament to answer MPs' questions. I mean, it's an American company, X. Why would Elon Musk come over to Parliament? Off. Because they want to ban it. They don't want truth out there. They want to be able to control it all, so to control you, to control your reactions, and to get you, the cash cow, to do exactly as you're told. So we just want your vote. That's all. Be a good viewer and do as you're fucking told. That's all. Pearl Sky says, I don't know anymore. Alan says, I'm more suspicious, just a few things that still don't add up. Alan says, Trump didn't like TikTok. Probably didn't know how to use it, to be fair. Stuart, I get the news from you, Adrian. YouTube and Google. Interesting, Stuart. Paul Morton. The government playbook was in full swing and has not stopped since Kennedy. I agree, Paul. I agree. Again, on X, I've posted a video where Lyndon B. Johnson, who was inaugurated on Air Force One, because the minute that Kennedy was pronounced dead, they had to get the president in office. Vice president, swear on that Bible, yeah, right, you're the president. He's talking to Jackie Kennedy, and he's saying certain things that are just, well, inappropriate. So Lyndon B. Johnson is talking to Jackie Kennedy on a phone call, and it's just wholly inappropriate. He's talking about spanking her. And you just think, hang on a second. I mean, it's like when the Epstein stuff came out. Did you notice that one of Epstein's cohorts has been arrested today? He might have been sentenced, but it's only in one newspaper. None of the other mainstream. It's one of the little ones. I think it's the Mirror. Have said that he's been jailed. Oh dear. So, what was I saying? Dogs barking have put me off me stroke. So I think, let's go through some of your comments. Already started on Telegram big style. Yeah, somebody asked a question about Rumble. I got an email from Rumble today to say that they're trying to stop the advertising on that particular social platform, and they're asking for people to donate money. So this world that we're living in is not the world that we thought we were living in. It's being controlled, and it's shrinking smaller and smaller and smaller. Alan says, does your dog bite? No, just, it's not mine. We're dog sitting, and they're fabulous. Unless, of course, somebody walks past or they hear a dog whir miles away. They just go a bit nuts. They're fabulous. They're wonderful. Take them up to the allotment with me. They're fabulous. But bit loud every now and again. Who was that? Stuart says the dogs were distracting. Correct. Andy Turner, just on a lighter note, what do elephants use as tampons? Andy, I told that one on bloody Sunday, man. Peter Seiler says that dog is your fan. It's the only one. We're all heading for room 101, says Des. I know all the things that we hate are in there. But they can't have us work them out, because we're working them out. I mean, if you look at, I'm not a fan of rabidly left Marxist Labour Party members. I'm not. They're anti-Semites. I'm not. But then again, I've told you before, you have to look at the world through differing eyes, because AI is translating Hitler's speeches, and all of a sudden what Hitler was saying isn't actually what we were told he was saying in these speeches. He was actually on the side of the Jews. And then you've got the royal family, who are, do your own research. Go and look at the AI translations of his speeches. You do your research, or go to Joe Rogan. And you've got the royal family who are, cozying up to what they call a fascist dictator. And because it was only a few years, 20 or 30 years earlier, that the Russian communist revolutionaries, the Bolsheviks, had killed off the royal family. So they wanted the right wing, notice I'm saying right wing, to kill off the communists so that the royal family of GB would survive. So when it suits certain parts of top of the food chain, they'll do anything so that they survive and have a lovely life. Thank you very much. So back then, they were trying to get Hitler to kill off the communists so that they would survive and all the royal houses around Europe would survive. That's what that was about. Edward and Mrs. Simpson visiting Hitler. That's what that was about. They were afraid that the communists were going to take over Europe and were going to do the royal family in. Talking of which, our royal family Now, again, I would love your comments, because it's propaganda. There's no other way of describing it. It's propaganda. Anything that you get through your telly, your groove tube, is propaganda, because it's been managed by other people, and they want you to have a particular opinion on things. And like in the 1930s, when they were cozying up to Hitler because they were worried about the communists, I saw a video, and again, I'm sure I've posted this on X today. Samantha Markle, Meghan's sister. Samantha Markle was interviewed on RTE, the Irish TV station. And Samantha Markle stated categorically that Ginger Sphericals met with Thomas Markle. And the kind of conversation went on about, if you're going to ask, the thing to do, the right thing to do is, if you're going to marry someone, you go to parents or father or mother or whatever, and you ask for, as a man, you would ask for their daughter's hand in marriage. Samantha Markle's saying in an interview that that's what Harry did. Yet the official explanation is he's never met him. Never met him. And now we've got young Archie. It's his 5th birthday. Still no photographs. He's not coming out of America. I wonder why that is. Oh, he's Harry's. You know what I'm saying? Kerry makes a very good point. Can we trust the Markle family, though? Well, I think Samantha's having to speak on behalf of her father, who had a stroke, so he's not been a very well boy. But the official narrative is Thomas and Ginger Sphericals have never met. And yet, I agree, Kerry, that, Samantha could be noising them up, spoiling for a fight. But here's the rub. I'm just going to lead you through a little stream of consciousness. It will take no more than a couple of seconds. But when our dear Queen Elizabeth II died, Ginger Sphericals and his missus weren't in this country. They were in Holland, or was it Germany? They were in Europe. They were close by. So the royal family must have known. They knew what was ailing the Queen Elizabeth II. They knew. And they knew that she would have been on her last legs, bless her. So Ginger Sphericals and his missus were round about. They knew she was dying. And now the news comes out today that Ginger Sphericals and his missus, unsure about the kids, but you would expect them to bring them across, are going to spend Christmas with the Spencers. With the Spencers. First thing that popped into my mind, how are they going to monetize that? Second thing that popped into my mind was they were in Europe when the Queen died. Why would they want to be over here? And as GB Patriot said way back in January, King Charles's cancer is terminal. Now, they knew that the Queen's cancer was terminal. And where's Charles been the last couple of weeks? Kerry says Spencer has an axe to grind. He did at Diana's funeral. Remember the speech he gave? He's been divorced. He's on to his 3rd wife now, isn't he? So who's he to talk about marriage and wedding cake? But it was all, the daggers were out at Diana's funeral because of Charles and Camilla. But as it turns out, it's weird how life evolves and displays itself. Camilla is Charles's love of his life. And he dithered he did it, and she went off and married somebody else and had kids with somebody else. But that somebody else is still very close with Charles and the family and the royals and Camilla. So is Ginger Spherical and his missus coming across here to stay with the Spencers to be around his father? Polar Sky says, no, the Queen passed from bone cancer, I believe. Yeah, but they knew for 2 years. As Des Ashton says, if you live in a glass house, don't throw stones. Carrie Hawkins says they should have let him marry her. She had a past and they got Charles out of the way. Yeah, but she was the love of his life. So is that what is that going to be a Black Swan event? I don't think so. But, and as I say, I reiterate, I wish King Charles a long life and a healthy life. I know it's not been great this year for him and or Catherine, and we'll get to that video in a second. But why would they be around? They were around. They used the Invictus Games as the excuse to be in Europe. But they were just close enough by. And they're going to be with the Spencers for Christmas. As my old mum would say to me, Adrian, they're at it. But we don't know what. Des Ashton Spin Doctors, all of them. Polar Sky, they don't tell us what is going on until they have to. Kerry Hawkins, the smelling blood, Adrian. I agree, Kerry. I agree. But let's it's not the right phrase to use, but let's just pick apart. Let's unpack what we're being told. So the video was released yesterday, and it's up on this channel if you want to view it again. And do you know, like I told you, for 9/11, where USA. Hang on. So there's something in this video. And we're talking about the top of the food chain. We're talking about one of the oldest bloodlines in the world ever. And over 1,000 years of history. Now, admittedly, I've told you this before, we can trace my family lineage back to about the 500s. A professional genealogist did that. Oh, by the way, I was going to mention this, but why has BlackRock bought Ancestry.com for all the DNA results? And they're paying a lot of money for it. Why is BlackRock, who owns 47% of Ukraine, why is BlackRock buying Ancestry.com? Because then if anybody does anything on Ancestry.com, they kind of join the dots and get AI to join the dots. That's very funny, Ray Norton. At least Hugh Edwards won't announce it. That's just a little aside. So I watched the video, Catherine and William, and the Scarlet Pimpernel said to me, looks like 3 separate videos, do you not think? And I had a look, and it does, because there's no continuity in the video. It looks like different times, and we don't know whether that was made this year or last year. There's no time stamping, but that's kind of, picking that shit out of sugar. As Amalia says, I like the video. It's beautifully shot. But have you worked out that it's kind of putting it back into Ginger Spherical's face, because he had a video or some pictures taken next to trees, barefoot with his missus and kids, or and it's I just want to get to this one point, because it's all about symbology. When you get to that level, money's no object. It is literally no object. Power is no object. It's soft power and military power, but power is no object. Unless you keep telling them to let them eat cake, or certainly let them eat Battenberg. There was something in that video that was glaring. And Scarlett Pimpernel on my team agreed with me. The Bad Wolf Project says the video is all filters and clever edits. With the right editing, even crap can look like gold. Brilliant. Christ Source, I hit maybe you have to renew to see. Amalia, oh, thank you, Amalia. I mean, I like Adrian's video. Thank you. So this is what, again, like USA, 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 this is what stood out glaringly and just jarred me as soon as I heard it. So the video is stills, video, very clever editing, as Bad Wolf Project says, filters and clever edits. But is the audio Catherine? And that would be an unusual question to ask, do you not think? The reason why I ask the question is because in the video, go and check it out, she says, me and William. Now, I don't think that Catherine was brought up on a council estate. It's William and I. Me and William. That's not her. It may sound like her, but she wouldn't say me and William in a month of Sundays. They're too far up the bloody food chain, man. They're at the top of the food chain, like the Queen would say, my husband and I. It's William and I. Her grammar would be impeccable. Not me and William. It's as good as saying me and Big Willie. No, she's not going to stoop that low. Well, depends if the kids are in bed. It's not me and William. Oh, Kaz987, I agree. Harry's immigration status case has been terminated and sealed by a judge. Sources Black Belt Barrister's video from today. Well, that might be Black Belt Barrister's video from today, but it was it is in the press. It's all over the press this morning. So he's just got it from the press. But yes, they've tried to get it unsealed, been refused. So the fact that he's talked about all of his recreational gear use in his spare book. I mean, how stupid is this boy? I've told you, he's not got an IQ point to rub together, 2 IQ points to rub together. They're not, because that's what I was saying. This family have so much power and influence. They can say to the courts in America, no. Let's just leave it. Let's keep it sealed. Because he would lose his status. He then couldn't live in America with her. He'd have to come back here, and we don't bloody want him. I mean, his neighbours are complaining about the smell of weed. We don't want him. London smells bad enough as it is of weed. Chris Saw says, bizarre and unroyal. I know. Me and William. Didn't anybody else pick up on that? Me and the Scarlett Pimpernel did. Because it's just, that's it. My old ninja teacher, I've told you this before, my ninja teaching, my ninja teacher taught me this. It's the present of the unusual in the usual. And that's why, when I heard it, I thought, well, we've already had a looky-likey in Windsor Farm Shop, because that definitely wasn't her. We've had AI with bits of her not really computing. And then me and William. Now, I don't know whether they're doing this on purpose, just to get the the shits and giggles and the clicks and likes and stuff, and whether, because all the mainstream press are like, oh yes, yes, future king, future king, future king, Prince of Wales, Princess of Wales, love you, love you, love you, love you, and it's like kissing arse, man. What? Truth is more important than kissing arse. Well, in certain circles, in my circles anyway, and I'm sure in yours because you're here listening to this. Viv Kenyon, our Rev would really appreciate you hitting the like button. Yes, I would, you Rollins. Amalia Grassi, I did notice it and I thought it's surprising, but then I thought that she's being really relaxed on herself. Amalia, she wouldn't say that. She would say William and I. Her grammar is impeccable. Has to be, because she's royal. And if it's not, somebody else makes sure that it is. They've got servants coming out of their backside, if you know what I mean. Stuart says, are they testing us, I wonder? Well, Charles has been king for 2 years. And again, I wish you can handle the truth. Or that's what they think. He's been king for 2 years. And he's been the longest Prince of Wales in history. Queen Elizabeth II was the longest queen in history. And maybe Charles is just going to have a soft relaunch and take a step back. But either way, there's been some earth-shattering news in the royal family in 2024. I've still got bits about America, Starmer the Harmer, but I'm going to ask you a really straight question. And I wonder if you have the answer. You know all this reportage about dinghy divers, if you want to call them that, back in the day, or economic migrants, if you want to call them that, or the people who just arrive on the boats, the boat people, if you want to call them that. And successive prime ministers in this country, from Johnson to Truss to Sunak to Starmer, they've all said, well, Starmer said, we're going to smash the gangs. We're going to smash the gangs. Really? Is that a northern thing? Around the back of the bike shed? Sunak says, stop the boats, stop the boats, stop the boats. But everybody is agreed that it appears to be smuggling gangs. And I just thought to myself, hang on a second. They're camel shaggers. They're from the Middle East, Afghanistan, most of them. We know that all the nail bars that are sprouting up need the Vietnamese because they're all coming across, but ostensibly Afghans. They barely make £5 a year. I'm being facetious, but it's not far off. Why? It would take them 30 or 40 years to save up £5,000 to pay the gangs to get across here after travelling across Europe to get to France. So here's my question. Who's paying the £5,000 to the gangs for these people to come across here on the boats? Who is paying the £5,000? They can't, because they can't afford it. Who is paying the £5,000? Is it the government? Is it a government? Some governments? Some states? Who's paying the £5,000? So when Tuti Akia, Starmer the Harmer, stands up in the House of Parliament, I want Rich Boy Sunak to get on some step ladders and address him across the dispatch box and say to him, oi, Kia, mate man, who's paying the £5,000 each? Is it Soros? Is it Schwab? Is it you? Who is paying the £5,000? Because the people from Afghanistan and the other areas that they're coming from, the Africans, they couldn't save £5,000 if their life depended on it in 50 years. So there is another question that follows that very quickly behind it. Not only who's paying it, but why? And maybe we save that particular rabbit hole for a different night, because it might get us into a lot of trouble. Because they don't like questions. They don't. I'll make this point about Starmer the Harmer. Starmageddon. He's just, I mean, I'll check out the reportage that's coming out of the comments. But if an MP is on 91 grand and is allowed to use taxpayers' cash to pay for their heating, can you explain to me why a pensioner on 11.5 grand can't claim winter fuel allowance? As I said to you before, they've used Sir Keir Starmer to get Labour back into power. I was told by a very, very credible source that he was just getting them in power and then he was going to be ousted. So is this the start of the coup? Has he been, have they put advisors around him that are going to get him to trip up and then get Ginger Growler as Prime Minister? Because they love a woman Prime Minister, don't they, in this country? Look what happened to Thatcher. So at PMQs today, Sunak stood up and went, "Oi, wrong one. Let's talk about this, your estimated pensioner deaths over winter. Seemingly, my calculation are 3,800. Thank you, Kerry. I'll let you know. Now, seemingly, according to Sir Keir Starmer's research that he'd been given, 4,000. So you take the winter fuel allowance from the pensioners and 4,000 are going to die because of that. And yet, these clowns in Clown World in the Pink Palace, they're on 90 odd grand a year. No, not Rachel Reeves is on what, 160 odd, 150 odd? The Prime Minister's on more. And then they don't even pay for their heating allowance in all their houses. From their pay, they get the taxpayer to pay it. And yet the pensioners, do they need the pensioner vote now? Well, no, they've got all the economic migrants in the country. Yeah, as Amalia says, they're all right, Jack. They're not all from Swansea, in gag. So, I can't see him surviving this. He's the most hated man in Britain. Liz Truss, the lettuce was bad enough. Lauren Taylor says, I thought she had said William and me, and depending on the context, she could be grammatically correct. We'll rewatch and pay attention. No, Lauren, she says me and William. And it's like, did I just hear that? Ray Norton, bring back Guy Fireworks, you're wrong, and Ray. Kathy Harper, why do you think pensioners are rich? They're not. Well, let's look at this in context. So, people that are pensioners now would have possibly been buying their council homes in the 80s, where Thatcher created the right to buy. Now, if you're thinking that pensioners are rich, it might not be that they've got liquidity. They've not got money in the bank or money stuffed under the mattress. They've got millions under the mattress. Maybe the way that wages were increased in the 70s and the 80s, maybe they've been frugal, maybe they've saved a bit. But a lot of the pensioners weren't able to do that. Were either unemployed or, for varying reasons, might not have a private pension. It might just be relying on the state pension. Who said that? Alan says 2 million old age pensioners living below the poverty line. Jesus. And they can give 600 million to bloody Zelensky today, the day after they decide they're going to absolutely do the pensioners' knees. What the Jesus H? They think they're fucking clever. They're not going to get 2 terms. They're not. What they may try and do is stop reform amalgamating with the Tory party, because the Tory party are dead and buried in the water. Doesn't matter who's going to lead them. They're dead and buried in the water. Because those 14 years, and it happened before with Thatcher and with John Major and all the other Tories before Labour got in. People had had enough of them. Enough. And we got to that point where we were sick and tired of the sight of them, let alone the billions that they siphoned off. I've got 2 words to say to you. If you want to have a go at me, I've got 2 words to say to you about the Tories. Michelle Mone. Get back to me when you've got the millions from her and her PPE contract. Michael Gove was looking after the VIP lane. Why would you have a bloody VIP lane for PPE? Newton Brown says it's no good having cash under the mattress when the cashless society finally comes in. I agree with you. That's why gold. Have gold. And I will guarantee you this. Bitcoin and all the digital currencies, the minute that the central banks have control, it's going to go through the roof. So if you have, sit on it as long as you can. Central banks, I'll say this to you again, and I'll reiterate it, and I've been telling you for the 2 years that this channel's been going. Nobody else is telling you this. The Rothschilds are 5 or 6 central banks away from owning the banking system worldwide. The whole globe. Ask yourself, I'll give you them. So there's China and Russia, obvs. Iran, Syria, Hungary, Venezuela. There's 6. The minute that they get, and I think they've possibly got Syria already because of what's gone on there. But why do you think they would try and get into Iran? Iran's a massive country, massive and hugely populated, more populated than the UK. And Russia, they just need to get rid of Putin. Oh, I wonder what the war in Ukraine's about, if it is a war after all. It's about the oil and the gas under the Black Sea. And China's a bit wobbly, but China wants stability. It doesn't want war, it wants stability. America wants war, because America only ever makes money when there's war going on. So keep an eye on those countries. Have you noticed how Venezuela is suddenly coming to the fore in American politics, in America mainstream media reportage? Why would they do that about Venezuela? Because they want the bloody central bank, man. And Hungary, poor Hungary, what have they done? The Austro-Hungary World War I. They didn't get the central bank then. Nobody else is telling you this. Just keep an eye on those countries. China, Russia, obviously. Hungary, Syria, Iran, Venezuela. The Rothschilds own everything else. And they would fund both sides of a war to make the odd shekel or 3. Let's get into America, because I want to very quickly talk about Trump versus Now, if you're a newbie, I'm going to tell you this. If you've been with the channel for quite a while, and a lot of you have, and I really appreciate your support, you know that I don't scare easy. I don't. I've got a heart the size of a lion, and I have integrity. But I am telling you this, as sure as eggs are fucking eggs. Kamala Harris being president of America scares the literal bejesus out of me. And it's got nothing to do with politics. It's got nothing to do with if you want an example of how things are going to go in America, and this is the death of America, the death of America. Look at Sir Keir Starmer. Look at what he did in the first 6 to 8 weeks. Look at what he did in the first 100 days. She is going to get gobbled up by the power. Pun intended. So, are you aware Yeah, cackling Kamala. Thank you, Tom. And somebody said hyena. Vix Tex agrees. Scares me too. The Bovril agree. So I'm not engaged by party politics because I can see right through that bullshit. Oh, politics. They give you two choices and you think it's democracy? Off. So they've got Trump and they've got Harris. They had a senile old duffer who couldn't string a sentence together, and he was the leader of the free world. Who do you think is leading the free world? Barry Soto and Big Mike. Oh, did I say that out loud? What do you mean, who's Barry Soto? Barack Obama. So if you look at it, Barack Obama gets 2 terms. And then Trump has the temerity to stop Hillary Clinton getting in because it would have been Barack Obama. And then Biden, Obama's VP, gets in for a term and he wants to do 2 terms. That would have been Barack Obama is in for 16 years. And now they want Cumface to be president of the United States. That would have been Barack Obama pulling the strings and being ipso facto president of the United States for 20 years. 2 terms, his 2 terms, 8 years. Biden, bless him, 4, 12, and then 8 years of Kamala Harris. 20 years. They're not allowed because the founding fathers of America, 1776, they knew what would happen. Paul, thank you very much. You deserve a quick short for tonight and that cough. Thank you very much. So she scares me because I can see that they're pulling the strings. And what they're doing, and please watch this, do not take my word for it. Just watch this and do your own research. But I know you to be sharp and I know you to be a critical thinker. Can you not see how the narrative is that Kamala Harris is going to win the presidency? Can you see that narrative? Can you see how the polls keep coming back and she's beating Trump? How does that work? She's not even been given the nomination. She's been chosen. She's not fought for the nomination, the Democratic nomination. She got binned early on for that. And the Democrats even nominated a bloke that can't string a sentence together. That's how corrupt American politics, party politics is. It's a joke. So, Taylor Swift comes out today and says, well, she's the most famous woman on the planet. You know, I think her music's shite. It's not aimed at me at all. She's no Led Zeppelin, certainly. She's endorsed Kamala Harris with a photo of herself with her cat stroking her pussy and signed it, Childless Cat Lady. I mean, if I was going to change the letters around, it spells lesbian for me. Now, the blowback on, if you pardon the pun intended, the blowback has been massive. And either Taylor Swift's team or Taylor Swift herself has disabled comments on her post. People don't like it. They don't want it and they don't like it. That's why America is the most racist country on planet Earth. Trust me. And Africa takes some beating because they're tribal over there in Africa. Don't you be saying to me, the Africans, they'll chop your head off if you're not from the right tribe. America, it's always been racist. Martin Luther King, he didn't change anything. The Kennedys didn't change anything. Is this the new version of America, the Biden-Harris version of America? Cat stew, anyone? And did you notice none of her accents came out last night? And on X, I've uploaded the proof. But just remember, cat lives matter. And I put the proof up on X. She's wearing a particular kind of earrings. She's got an earpiece in. Why would she have an earpiece in? Because she'd been given, her or her team had been given the questions beforehand. She's word salad bullshittery, that woman. And her words are always slurring. No idea why, would you? Of course I do, but I'm not going to say on here. Alcoholic. So, she's got an earpiece in. She's been fed stuff, and I've put the evidence up on X. Not only is she being fed, her accents didn't appear last night, y'all. So the fix is in, as VixTech says. The fix is in, and the fix runs deep. And the fix, Barry Sototo. Seemingly, and I put the video up on X today, there's tons of stuff on there. Never mind allegedly. Stuart, no, my sister's a Swiftie. Move house, Stuart. I feel your pain. No, you can't come and live with me. But they are making the narrative look like Barry and Big Mike. They're just running America. But they're making the narrative look like she can win the presidency. So when they have to fix it for her to get in, nobody's going to question it. They're not. And I'll remind you of this when we get to November. It's not that far away. 7, 8 weeks. Not that far away at all. So she scares me, and the people behind her scare me. America, leader of the free world. Stuart, you'd have to sleep with the dogs. I wouldn't, no. I've got a kennel outside, I suppose. It's a sick feeling in the pit of my stomach. I can see it coming. There's nothing I can do about it. So that's kind of my take on the world. Any more likes would be really appreciated. My name's Adrian Allen. Thank you for your likes, subscriptions. Please make sure that you're subscribed. If you want to come over to X, if you have a profile there. If you haven't, get a profile. It's free, for goodness sake. And I'm putting some really contentious stuff up there. I don't muck about because it's the only place I can do it, really. And truth is truth. There's no ifs, ands, buts, or maybes. Truth is truth. Now, I don't want to kind of preach the truth. I want you to come to determine your own version of truth, because that is more powerful than me just giving you some answers. Cloud Piven strategy. I've heard of that. I was looking at some stuff today that I'm going to write up for X, not for here. Orokida, all the best. See you soon. Thank you. So please, I just want you to get to a version of the truth and get an understanding of what's going on in the world, and determine yourself what you believe and what you believe is happening and what you feel you can do. Because I will tell you this again, and I will reiterate this on every live. It's by being a community and staying together, and our humanity directing the wind in our sails. Because there's a lot of evil in the world, and it's showing itself every single day. We're live again on Sunday, 8 o'clock. See you then. And on the way out, please make sure you leave the body of the cook in the mess that you found it. And if there's any altar wine, take it home. Take it home for the dogs or something. And the Battenberg, send it over here because I'm starving. I'll see you Wednesday, 8 o'clock. Be well, stay safe, and I'll see you on Sunday.